Hey guys, so this tutorial is going to be about building dragon skin wire. I have seen this posted a lot online, especially on Reddit r coil porn, and I've only been able to find one person who actually knew how to do this. I don't know if he's the inventor of the wire, or it was his concept, or he's the one that figured out how to wrap it. I'm going to post the Instagram where this came from below in the comments. So I just really wanted to figure out how to build this wire, and I realized that there was no build video for it. So I'm going to go ahead and show you guys how to make this. I've run through this about 3 or 4 times, and I finally got it figured out. So we'll go ahead and get started. You're going to need a bunch of different gauges of wire. So you're going to need 22 gauge wire. You're going to need, let's see, 26 gauge wire. You'll need 28 gauge wire. And most importantly, you will need 34 gauge wire, and a lot of it. So I bought 250 feet of this 34 gauge wire off Amazon. It was like 10 bucks or something like that. I use pure atomist wire. I honestly don't think it matters that much which one you use. It's all Canthol. The other important thing you'll need is a drill. You need a drill for this. There's not really a way to do it without the drill. Straighten out a piece of 22 gauge Canthol. And the reason that we're doing this is because we're going to actually Clapton the 34 gauge Canthol around a piece of 22 gauge Canthol. So I'm going to use, let's see, about 3 unwraps of one of these spools of 22 gauge wire. That's like 18 inches or something like that, maybe a little bit more, I can't really tell. If you guys don't know how to straighten Canthol wire by now, you can go look it up. I just watched a small tutorial on this when I first started building. The way that we do this though is we just put the wire into the drill, chuck, and then you're going to take your pliers and hold it's on the other end, and you just twist it. And as you twist the wire, it just kind of straightens itself out. So I'm going to do that really quickly, and we'll be right back. So we have our straightened piece of 22 gauge Canthol, and what I did while I was away is I also took off about 20 feet of the 34 gauge wire because we're about to Clapton it. 34 gauge wire, you need a lot of feet of it. It's really thin. I mean, it's like hair thin, and it's kind of a pain in the butt to Clapton. I usually Clapton 28 or 30 gauge around stuff. I never go above that. So need a good 15 to 20 feet of it, and I always have extra because I'm just kind of a wire waster. So if you guys don't know how to Clapton wire, you need to go watch another video to learn how to do that. It's not that hard. You're going to waste about 50 feet of wire learning how to do it first though. So for this one, when we're going to Clapton it, just know with this low of gauge of wire, just go slowly. You can't really do this one fast. The one thing to note is that it does not have to be a perfect Clapton. What I mean by that is, I know a lot of you are sticklers for having like a perfect looking Clapton, there's no space between them. It doesn't matter if there's a little bit of space or it's not all even going down, you just can't have any overlap. So if it starts to overlap, you need to redo it. But it's not perfectly like just airtight next to each other. That's fine because we're going to mess with the Clapton after this anyways. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to Clapton this 34 gauge around the 22 gauge, and you need about 12 inches of usable Clapton that's well done with no overlap. If you can get more, that's better. It's always better to have more, just so you have more to work with in case something goes wrong later on. So we're going to go ahead, we're going to Clapton this 34 gauge, which you can even barely see it on here, around this 22 gauge wire. So let's begin. Had a little bit of mess up there, as you can see, and you just pull it back off and keep going. Finally, so we have our nicely Claptoned 24 or sorry, 34 gauge around 22 gauge right here. And here's a couple pictures to show you guys what it looks like. So as you can see, it's not perfect. There's no overlap. If you do overlap, you can kind of take the wire in your teeth and then reverse spin it and pull back while you keep the wire steady. And it'll unwrap it. You can just keep trying to wrap it over and over. It doesn't have to be perfect, but what you do is if you do have spaces at the end, you kind of come down and you just push it together. You take it at the end where the spring is and you just push. And you keep pushing, you kind of hold some pressure on it, and it'll bring those nice and close together. So the next thing that we're going to have to do is we are going to take our Clapton coil that we wrapped around with a 34 gauge, and we're actually going to take the 22 gauge wire out of it. And I'm going to show you how to do that right now. Take it out of the drill, like so. And I don't know how you guys fit yours in the drill. I usually have like a folded over piece, so if you have that, I would just go ahead and I would clip that off. Let me grab my little one first. I'll clip that end off, like I have this. I fold it over to get it in the drill so the chuck catches, so I just take that off. Like so. And then where I started my Clapton with this kind of gross stuff right here for the beginning of the wrap, I just cut that off too. So that's off. So now you just have your nice Clapton, and this stuff just comes right off. So you just take it, start at the top where you can see, here's where the Clapton is, right here. And then here's the core wire, so just pinch it, and you just kind of pull it out. You can see how that kind of just comes out. And then you have your little Clapton spring. Boing, boing, boing. So, what we're going to do with this, stretch it. So we stretch this coil, this Clapton coil. I'm just going to start calling it a coil because it is a coil. Take each end of this Clapton with pliers, right, like this. So you have it in both ends, and then we're going to stretch this. And it matters how far you stretch it. So don't think you can stretch it however far you want. It matters. Do not stretch it more than 3 times its length. Really, 2.5 times its length right here is as far as you want to go. So I'm going to start from here, 2.5 to 3. 3 is all right, but if you really want to get that dragon skin look, so you can see like the scales on it, the less you stretch it, the better. Now, I haven't tried it only stretching it, 1.5 times its length. I would recommend that. You need a little bit of spacing, but you don't want to stretch it too far, or else you're not going to get the little scales to pop out on your coil, which is why we're building this, and because it's got great flavor and great heat. So take it and then just kind of look at it. I'm just going to eyeball it. So let's see, it's going to be twice as long. Yeah, it's probably twice as long, and then we'll go 3 times as long, probably about there. That's probably about good right there. And I'm not going to need any more than that, really. So we have this stretched out Clapton. You can put this to the side for a second. This is the really important part to this. Like I said earlier, you can choose if you're going to use 26 or 28 gauge or a combination of the two. I'm going to use 2 pieces of 28 gauge and 1 piece of 26 gauge. The reason that I'm doing that is because I've already built it using 3 pieces of 26 gauge. Too low for me. 0.16. So if you use 3 pieces of 26 gauge and you're going to build a dual 5-wrap coil with this wire, you're going to come out to 0.16. And some people like it that low. I don't like how much it drains batteries when you do that, because it kind of just kills your batteries. So I'm going to use 2 pieces of 28 gauge and a piece of 26 gauge, and we're going to hope it works, and I'm pretty sure it's going to. You can use 3 pieces of 26 gauge, you can use 2 pieces of 28 gauge and a piece of 26 gauge, or you can use 3 pieces of 28 gauge, and then you come out to like 0.4 with a dual coil. You're going to get a length of wire that is some combined length of 26 or 28 gauge wire that is as long as this Clapton spring. You can measure this out, or you can just kind of eyeball it. I'll probably end up measuring it. What we're going to do, we're going to be dividing this coil into 3 pieces. So you need wire that fits into 3 pieces. Okay, so I don't know if I explained myself very well. I don't think that I did. So what you need to do, if you're going to build this just like I'm building it, you need to cut off a piece of 26 gauge Canthal that is 1/3 the length of your stretched out Clapton coil. If you are doing this with just straight 26 gauge for those really low ohms, you're going to need just 1 piece of 26 gauge Canthal that is as long as your Clapton coil. because we're going to be filling this Clapton coil up with different wires and cutting it to 3 lengths. So I've done, here's one piece of 26 gauge Canthal that is 1/3 the length of my Clapton coil. And the way to measure this out is to just figure out a way to measure it out. I use like a piece of paper and I like mark on it. I don't do anything special. It's just I just kind of eyeball everything that I do. And then so I have this piece of 26 gauge Canthal, 1/3 the length of our Clapton coil, and then I have another piece of straightened 28 gauge Canthal, twice the length of this. So you'll have 1/3 26 gauge, 2/3 28 gauge, and it'll equal 1 entire length of this wire, if that makes sense. So now what we're going to do is we're going to insert our 26 gauge piece into the straightened out Clapton wire, or the stretched out Clapton wire. Take your 26 gauge right here. And if you're doing this with just one straight gauge of Canthal and you're not doing any mixing or matching, put your whole piece in through there. They need to be straightened though to make this easier. And straightening was described earlier. So you just take your 26 gauge right here, and then you take the end of your Clapton coil and you just put it inside of there. You just kind of work it in there. It's kind of a pain in the butt for a second, but it isn't too hard. Oh, check it out, baby. Alright, so then you just kind of like hang it up like this. Here, I'll show you. Kind of hold it up so that this coil is dangling, and you just kind of let it dangle and you just kind of lightly guide the 26 gauge into there, and it'll kind of just go straight in, and the other part of the wire will start to straighten out. So you see how I have this piece of 26 gauge now, and then you got this coily part right here. Alright, so go ahead and cut at the edge. So you have this 26 gauge that has been slid inside this stretched out Clapton, and then you have the rest of the stretched out Clapton still left because we still got to use it. So go ahead and clip that. It's so thin my wire cutters don't even want to clip it. Let's see. Clip. There we go. Alright, so we can put this to the side for a second. This is the 26 gauge inside of the stretched out Clapton. Okay, now we're going to take our 28 gauge. And guess what we're going to do? We're going to slide the rest of the 28 gauge. We're going to slide the rest of the 34 gauge stretched out coil over our 28 gauge. So what you do is you just kind of hold it up like this and just put it in the hole. Let's see. Alright, get on in there. There we go. Just kind of let it hang so that this Clapton part is loose, and the 28 gauge will just slide right into there. You'll see it just start coming down through it. There we go. So now you have the 28 gauge inside of the stretched out Clapton as well. Now just clip the little ends off of that. So you just have it kind of nicely in there. Like so. And what I would do is just cut this in half. I'll probably just use my 26 gauge for measurement. Yeah. So now we have these 3 wires. And I'll show you this right now. Now we have these, oops, I just dropped. So now we have these 3 pieces of wire that have all been slid inside of that stretched out coil. Stretched out Clapton right there. So you have these. So now what we're going to do is we twist these together, but there's one thing to watch out for. 2 things that you need to watch out for. First off, the direction that you're going to be twisting this in the drill. So we're twisting these 3 wires together. Now whichever way you Clapton these wires, the way that you're going to twist these 3 together, you need to twist it in the reverse direction. So if you Claptoned it clockwise, you need to twist them counterclockwise. And this is actually what makes the scales pop out on this wire. So make sure that whichever way you Claptoned it, when you go to twist these 3 wires together, that you are twisting it in the reverse direction. The other thing to watch out for is if you're doing this build like I am, and you have 1 piece of 26 gauge and you have 2 pieces of 28 gauge, you need to make sure that your 26 gauge is in the middle of the 28 gauge wires, that it's not out on the outside or anything like that. just so it's kind of even, that you kind of get that even burn. That has to be there. So, and you just kind of straighten them out like this. Make sure that you can grab them at the top. And now, when we go to twist these, first you're going to do a small little quick, not quick, a little slow twist to get them started. Just to make sure it's wrapping evenly. Okay. And then once you have a nice little twist, then you're going to do this quick. You're going to do a quick, like 5-second twist. You're going to do it fast. And the scales really should pop out after you do this. And there they are. So I'm going to show you a close-up of these, and you'll see what this wire is supposed to look like. We're almost there. We're almost done. So here, I'm going to take these out right now. And after you do that, what you should start seeing is that these little scales actually start to pop up. I don't know if you can see that. I don't have a macro lens or anything like that. But if I could get real close and I could show you this, you'd see that these little scales actually start to pop up. And they pop up evenly all the way down the wire. If you can see off to the left, it's kind of the best way to look at it. Here's what it should look like right now. You'll see these little loops and stuff coming out of it. You'll see the wires twisted into it. That's what it should look like after you get done twisting those 3 wires together. Now, as you can see, those little loops are going to become our scales. And now to get the dragon look, our last step is to take this wire and we're going to flatten it down using the drill. We're going to flatten it down using the drill and a little bit of lubrication, whatever you have sitting around the house to lubricate this with. And if at this point your wire does not look like this, you've done something wrong. I'm sorry. You either stretched your Clapton out too far, you twisted it in the wrong direction, or your wires got messed up while you were twisting it. It's important to do a very slow twist to make sure the wires are on track as you start, and then to do it very quickly for 3 to 5 seconds to make sure these scales pop out. Now what we're going to do, just take your wire. If you haven't taken it out of the chuck yet, don't worry about it, just leave it right in there. You're going to take your wire, and you're going to trap it into the drill again as best you can. This wire always ends up being really thick, so you're not really gonna have an issue trapping this kind of wire into the chuck. So now the last step before you have your dragon skin wire, which looks really cool, is you're gonna take flat looking these what are these things called? Pliers or whatever, I don't know. They look like this, and they have a flat edge on the inside. It doesn't look flat because there's paint and stuff in here, but there's a flat edge on the inside. So you're going to take these, and you're going to need some lubrication, which, in this case, I always have vegetable glycerin sitting around, because I dilute all my juices, because you can buy it for $10 for 50 milliliters, and you can make it into 30. So I always have VG sitting around. You can buy this stuff at Walmart, CVS. It just needs to say USP grade if you're going to dilute. And so we're going to take this, we're going to lube up your wire. You're going to lube up your little plier things, and we're going to start flattening this wire out. So what we do, take your VG, and you just kind of put it on here, and you just kind of lube your wire down. Start rubbing that VG onto it. Real saucy, like, just give it a little rub. Here we go. Alright, so it's looking nice and lubey, nice and oily. And then you'll put some on the inside right here. Just to make sure it stays all nice and lubricated. And it's going to get sticky. You're just going to kind of have to deal with that. So now what we do is you keep it twisting in the direction in which you twisted the wires together. So it's the opposite direction in which you clapped in. So you just kind of take it, you do pretty light pressure. We're just going to do this a few times down the wire, and just remember, spin it quickly and just push down the wire, because you want those loops to fold down that way. You want them to fold in and down that way to get that scaled look. If you don't do this right, it's still going to vape like dragon wire, it just doesn't look as cool. So come down the wire, and it's all kind of starting to come together, and then you just keep doing that. You just do it a few times. And it's got to keep kind of coming after it. You can re-lube and that kind of stuff. And you'll see it starting to kind of fold down and become its own little wire. And that should do it for our dragon skin. I'm going to give you guys some close-ups of what this looks like, and you'll see. And you've made some dragon skin wire. So, alright guys, so here's what you're going to be looking like. This is our finished dragon skin wire. Now I don't have an ultra super macro camera. I'm just using my phone here. I don't have the nicest of setups. So you can't really see all the definition in this wire. Yeah, you're going to see it when you wrap it this way and you make it this way. You're going to see how it's dragon skinned. I don't have the zoom capabilities to make it very apparent what it looks like really close up. So this is what it's supposed to look like. It kind of comes out looking more, it's more, let's see, it's rounder. It feels pretty round. It almost feels all like a mesh when you get done with this. I wish I could show you guys a little bit better how these scales are kind of going down and back. I'm going to take it back up to FaceTime and we're actually going to wrap this. So, yeah, let's do this. Guys, now you have your first wrap of dragon skin wire. Your first completed dragon skin wire. So what you need to do is, this stuff's going to be real springy. It's going to be kind of hard to keep its form. You need to go burn this. I only have a lighter because I only use a lighter because I don't actually have a butane torch. If you have a torch or something like that, use that and get the springiness out of this wire and wash your lubricating whatever it is off of it, or you can just burn it off when we get to it. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to separate this in half so that we can have two separate coils. That should be right about in half. So we're doing a dual coil on this. So let's see. Let's go ahead and wrap it. So I'm using a 3/32 drill bit for this, 2.38 millimeters. I think that's good for me. I don't like to build any lower than that, like any, I guess, thinner than that. It just bothers me trying to wick it, and I don't think it wicks that well. So I'm using a 3/32 drill bit. So that's the ohms that are going to come out of this will correspond to a 3/32 drill bit, 5 wraps. So let's just do this, and it wraps pretty easily. It is springy though, so it's going to be springy. So you're going to need to deal with it as you do with springy wire. I don't know what you do. I kind of hold it around the drill bit and just singe it and push it underwater and stuff like that till it keeps its form. So yeah, 5 wraps. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. 5 wraps. There you go. And it's still got a little bit of spring to it. So what I do in that kind of a situation, I'm just going to take it, hold it in the pliers so that it can't move, and then I just kind of get a nice little burn. We're going to do that with both. So we're going to wrap it this way on both of them. And we'll come back and we'll show you how to vape it and what it looks like when it's heating up and all that kind of stuff. So let me go ahead and put this into the RDA and everything, and we'll see what it looks like. Here's what our dragon skin coil is going to look like, and here's what it looks like heating up. And of course I have to work on this a little bit. I got to pinch these wires together and whatnot. But you'll see these really cool patterns start to come out in the wire over here. Just kind of watch it. There it goes. You'll see them kind of start to come out. So I got to kind of diddle around with it a little bit. You can actually see it pretty clearly from here that is the dragon skin wire. This coil I got a little messed up just when I was flattening it out. I think I held down for too long on one area. But yeah, this is the dragon skin. You just got to be careful, and I'm kind of a lazy builder. Once I start getting into it, start getting it done, I kind of just want to get it done. So I'm going to go ahead and juice this up, and we're going to take it back up. I'm going to tell you how it vapes.
Alright guys, here's the last thing that I'm going to show you before we go outside and kind of take a vape on this. Um, if you built it like we did today with one strand of 28 gauge, one strand of 26 gauge, two strands of 28 gauge, you're going to come out to about 0.27, 0.28. And that's about perfect for me. That's what I like to build around. The other wires that I had in here earlier, when I used all three strands of 26 gauge, it came out to 0.16. That's a little low for me. If you use three strands of 28 gauge building this, you're going to come out to around 0.45, something like that. I can't remember exactly what it was, but yeah. So this is just so you guys can see what kind of ohms you're looking at with the dual coil, 5 wrap, one strand of 26 gauge, two strands of 28 gauge, 34 gauge stretch Clapton dragon skin wire. So, and the way that you wick this, if you can see right here, you just wick it like any other RDA. Or any other normal coil. You just run the cotton through and down into the juice wells. So we're going to take this outside up to FaceTime and vape on it. I'll talk about the flavor a little bit, and that's it.
Okay, guys, so I can't actually vape in my apartment, so we're just going to talk about how it vapes out here. 5 wraps, it's about 0.28 ohms, and we'll see how she vapes. I got a Mutation XV4, all open airflow all the way through. We'll talk about the flavor and the vapor for just a second. So you can see vapor production is quite good. It gives you a lot of vapor and a ton of flavor. There's a ton of pockets in those little scales to give you a lot of flavor. It's just a really nice vape. I'm vaping this at 6.4 volts. It's coming out to about 130 watts, which the Sigelli doesn't always. The Sigelli 150, which is what I got this on, doesn't always read the ohms and the wattage correctly. It's 0.28 and it's 6.4 volts. So, yeah, so that's how you build the Dragon Skin wire. Vape's great flavor, and great vapor production. So that's how you build it. If you like this, ask me for more. I just made this because there's not there wasn't a build video out for this yet. So I decided to make one. I don't plan on making a bunch of these or anything like that. But if you want to know how to make other ones and you like the video, let me know. Again, the guy who posted instructions to this is down below. You can settle with him if he's the one that actually came up with it. But it's a really cool coil, really cool thing to do. So that's it. Enjoy your vaping.